Hello everyone, so in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful tulle fabric shaker bow, and I made mine double layered, so I've got two lots of loops on each side. You could make it a single layer like this, but I just felt it needed a little bit more depth just to give it, some added height and thickness, so that is what I've done. I filled mine with these 3mm little different coloured pearl beads, but you can fill this with anything. You could fill it with sequins, you could add some glitter sort of shapes in there, not too fine glitter because obviously it will come through the fine porous fabric of the tulle, but you can also get polymer clay shapes. I will pop some different links in the description below to give you some ideas. I'm using a baby pink tulle today. It's hard to see on this background, but this is the roll of tulle that I'm using. It comes 6 inches or 15 centimeters wide as standard, and this was actually a 100-yard roll of tulle to begin with. I've used some of it already, so it's not quite 100 yards there, but you don't have to buy 100 yards. You can buy it in smaller amounts. Again, I will link everything that I use in the description below with some added extras to inspire you as well. So you will need to cut 2 lengths of tulle off that roll. I've kept it to the standard width, which was the 6 inch or 15 centimeters wide. If you prefer to work in inches or centimeters, I have popped an image up on the screen now so you can see the measurements. So one piece at 35 centimeters or 13 3/4 inches, and one piece at 42 centimeters or 16.5 inches. So I've popped a piece of white card on my desk because this is a see-through tulle and my background is pink. It's difficult to see. I'm starting with the 42 centimeter piece first, so the bottom layer, and I'm going to start first of all by folding this in half lengthways. So I'm just lining up those 2 raw edges, folding it in half once, and then I'm going to fold it in half for a second time. And then I'm going to fold it in half again for a third time. And then I'm going to turn this around to the side now, so flipping it around, and then we're going to fold it in half this way. And then we're going to cut this in half to make the 2 sides of the bow. So taking my scissors and slotting it in between and cutting those 2 into 2 separate halves. And then I'm just going to grab a pin now to pin one of the halves to hold it in place whilst we work on the other. So grabbing a pin, pinning one of these halves together just to hold it together, so I can set that aside. And then on this piece we're going to be sewing in our pinch along the raw edge. So taking my needle, which is threaded with some strong thread and a knot in the end, this side here which has got the open fold, and keeping the nice closed side for the outside of the bow. We're going to do 8 stitches, so going in through the top for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, coming out from the bottom to the top for our last stitch, and then I'm going to pull that all the way through to form that cinch in the middle. Then I'm just going to go back through a couple of times just to hold that all in place, and then on this go I'm just going to catch a little bit of the tulle, go through that loose loop before I pull it tight to form a knot and pull it tight. So that is one half of the bottom layer of the bow. Continuing with that same piece of thread, again sewing across the raw edge, not the nice folded edge, the side that contains the raw edge, 8 stitches. So that's 4, just remove that pin out of the way, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the last one 8, and pulling it all the way through, making sure they're both facing the same way, and pull it tight to bring those 2 halves together. And then I'm just going to go through again a couple of times just to make sure that's held in place. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to close in that gap. So I'm just going to flip it to the underside, and then to close it in even more I'm going to go through the other half and the half we've just sewn. So just closing in that centre. You could sew both halves separately and then hot glue them together in the middle. It's totally up to you, whatever you find easier. Sometimes I do it that way. But yeah, if you want to continue sewing as I am, just go through both pieces a few times. And then I'm just going through that loose loop a couple of times to form a knot so I can trim off this excess thread now. And that is the bottom tulle bow now made. As you can see, it's not very bulky, it's very fine, which is why I did the 2 layers. So this is the bottom layer, and that is the piece we've just made. And now we're going to do this top layer and fill it with our sprinkles. So I'm going to set this bow aside, and then we're going to take our smaller piece of tulle, which was a 35cm or 13 3/4 inch piece. And with this piece we are going to make the top piece for the shaker part. So as we did before, we're going to fold this in half 3 times. So folding it in half once, first of all, lining up those raw edges, and then folding for the second time, and then folding for the third time, and then like we did before, flipping it around to the side. I'm going to pin it first this time. I just want to make sure they're lined up because they've slightly slipped out of place. So making sure their raw edges are lined up, and then just popping a pin in that half, and then again folding it in half this way. So we can then slip the scissors in between and cut those 2 in half to form the 2 halves of the bow. I'll set that pinned piece down because we can use that when we need it. So taking the first piece, first of all, we're not going to immediately sew in that pinch along the raw edge like we did before. Instead, we're going to seal the 2 edges here. So taking my needle and thread, I'm going to go in about half a centimetre from the edge, because all of these layers are a bit, uneven, which is normal. So yeah, leaving a half a centimetre from the edge, that just ensures you can get all of the layers in your stitching. So going in through the top, pulling it through to the knot, and then I'm just going to go in and out a few times for that first stitch just to make sure that thread is locked in. And then I'm just going to start sewing now, up and through and then down and through as we do the pinch all the way across, but we're not going to pull it tight to form that cinch or the pinch, whatever you call it, because this is just to seal off these edges so we can add in our sprinkles. So sewing it all the way to that last corner, and like I said, don't pull it tight because you don't want to form a pinch in there, you want to keep that flat. And then once you've got that all the way across, again I'm going to go in a few times on that last edge to make sure it's locked in and it's not going to come loose. And then to seal it off, I'm going to go in catching a little bit of that fabric at the edge, and then just go through the loose loop to form a knot to seal it off. And then I'm going to trim off that excess thread. And then that is one edge now sealed. So I'm going to do the same now with the opposite side. So making sure it's lined up, I'm going to do those same stitches. So now we have sealed both of those edges, we now need to flip this inside out. So making sure you open it up, make sure you've got the right layers, and then just flip it inside out, pushing the corners out. You want to make sure it resembles like a rectangular shape. Sometimes the corners can get a little stuck, so I'm just pushing them right out to form like this little pocket for our sprinkles. So this is what you're aiming for. So now we've got this little pocket to add in our shaker pieces. So in the last one, I just used some 3mm beads. I've got a tray here with all of my different beads in that I've been collecting. I got a lot of these online. Again, I will link them in the description below. So I'm going to go for some of these beads, plus I'm going to add in some little different pieces. So with it being a pink theme, I found these little beaded flowers, a little beaded heart, and I've made an even amount for each side. So this is for the first half. So these ones are going to go in here, along with some of these pink pearls in here. So I've got these darker pink 3mm pearls. So I'll just put a couple of pinches of those in there. And then I've got some of these lighter pink pearls. I'll put some of those in there. You want about sort of a teaspoon of pearls in there. I mean, it's up to you how much you add. If you want it to have more bits in there, you can add more or less. I'm going to add some more of these darker pink ones now. Let's just have a little look. You just have a little look and just get a feel of how you would like it to look. So on this half, as you can see, I used some of these darker green and blue and red pearls, sort of these three here, because I wasn't sure how well it would show in the darker tulle, but I was really pleased with how that turned out. And in this one, they show even more being a lighter tulle. So yeah, I'm happy with how this looks now. I'm not going to add any more. And now we're ready to seal this off. So I've got my needle and thread, and I'm going to go in through the top for my first stitch, and we're going to do 8 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then pull that all the way through. And then I'm just going to go through there again a couple of times, just to make sure that's all nice and secure and held in place. And then on this last little go, I'm not going to pull it completely tight. I'm going to go through that loose loop a couple of times to form a knot. I won't trim off the excess thread because I will continue with that same piece of thread, and we will do the exact same steps on the other half. So I've got the same sort of embellishments and pearls ready to add into the other half. So I've sped this part up because obviously I've already shown you how to do the first half of the bow, and you basically just do those exact same steps. So sealing off both of the sides first of all, as I am here, by doing those stitches, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to add in the pearls and the embellishments, whatever you're adding into your shaker bow. I'm going to make sure I add roughly the same amount of embellishments, so the little hearts, the little flowers, a pinch of this, a pinch of that, just to make sure they sort of look even. You could even do different on either side. It's completely up to you. You can really play around with these. And then once we've got this filled, we're going to do those same 8 stitches to cinch in the bottom. Again, I'm continuing with that same piece of thread, and then I'm going to bring the 2 halves of the bow together. So I've now done 2 halves, and now I'm going to bring them together by going in each side one at a time and just closing in that centre. Again, you could just seal them off, trim off the thread, and then hot glue them together if you wanted to, but with it being tulle, hot glue can sort of seep through the pores in the fabric. So yeah, I just sew them together. So that is the shaker part of the bow now done. So we're ready to layer these up now. So bringing back the plain one that we made earlier, I'm going to use hot glue now to layer these up. So grabbing my hot glue gun, I'm going to place some glue across the middle in the centre. And then I'm going to carefully line up my shaker bow so it's nice and central to the plain one. Sorry if I'm off camera a little bit, I can't quite get it all in, but hopefully you can just about see. And now we're ready to add the clip. I'm using a 45mm double prong clip, and I've already lined it with some baby pink ribbon. Because the tulle is see-through, I just like to cover it with some sort of as close a colour matching ribbon as I can. And then I'm going to add some hot glue to the front part of the clip, and then on the underside of my tulle shaker bow. You could even add this to an elastic, or you can add this bow to a headband. I've put one on a headband before and it looked really cute, but I just prefer to use clips because they're quite versatile and my daughter likes clips. So this is what we've got so far, and now we're ready to wrap the centre. To wrap the centre, I've chosen a glitter. So this is a baby pink chunky glitter. Again, everything I use I will link in the description below. I've cut this strip 1 centimetre wide by 5 centimetres in length. And I'm going to now wrap this starting under the clip, central to the hair bow. Again, I'm just using hot glue, and then I'm going to bring it around the front of the bow. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue just there, just to make sure it covers the join in the middle of the bow. And then continue round to the underside, and then 5 centimeters is just enough to wrap around there, so that was a good guess. So finishing on the underside of the bow, sticking it under that clip. And there is the finished bow. I'm just moving these all around. You can see all the different little beads in there, those little hearts and stuff. And if I give it a little jiggle, you can see those bits and pieces sort of moving around in there. Children absolutely love these. They sell so well. There's the dark one as well with just the pearls inside. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you press the bell button, that will turn on notifications. I'll be back again soon with another tutorial. Bye!